Stacy Armato, 208 28th Street. I wanted to talk about the website, since it's our big forum to get the information out to everybody. Just right on that homepage, it's called the Proposed Oil Production Project. I feel like that's very misleading. Michael, maybe you can help us out with the proper terminology for that. I believe it would be oil drilling. We don't need to sugarcoat it. It makes it seem like you're siding with oil and not with the people. So let's forget sugarcoating. Let's call it oil drilling. It's not mincing it. That's what it is. Also, the landing page is not updated. It says we're still waiting on the project application, and you said you're going through the project application, so it's not properly updated on the landing page.
We'll make sure we correct
Okay.
it.
Also, it would be nice to see also the settlement agreement, a quick click onto that. You have to go through a few different areas to be able to get to that. Also, in mentioning about the RFP for the EIR, I read it. It said that time is of the essence, and the development and adherence to the efficient project timeline is of critical importance. I would want to see us encourage the accuracy of the report rather than the timeliness. I know that everyone seems to be very anxious to get to a vote. I don't know why we're so anxious. We should do this in the proper fashion and not speed up things unnecessarily. Also, in the frequently asked questions site, again, Mike Jenkins, I point to you on this, and hopefully you go over this, seeing how you're the city attorney, and you should be going through the legalities of all this and making sure that the settlement agreement properly is reflected in the frequently asked questions. One section says if the measure passes, the city's financial obligation is reduced to $3.5 million payable from the share of royalties. It doesn't say anything about giving the city yard, which is valued potentially at $8 to $10 million, and it doesn't talk about a 35-year lease. It also says that if the $3.5 million is not payable from royalties, we owe them in 90 days in a lump sum. Also, it talks about how the royalties would be given to the city of Hermosa Beach and the school district, and it talks about 15.33% of the gross sales would go to us, but again, that's not true. We're talking about the Tidelands money that needs to be properly reflected in the frequently asked questions, especially if you're encouraging the city residents to go and trust this frequently asked question to be an impartial analysis of the settlement agreement. Also, it says if the ballot measure fails, this is very important, how will the city pay for the $17.5 million due to EMB? And I quote, in the frequently asked questions, the city will undoubtedly need to issue municipal debt in order to raise the funds to pay EMB. It may not be necessary to adopt new or increased taxes to pay the principal and interest payments on the debt, yada, yada, yada. That is an overstatement. We all know from, I've been sitting here, you guys have supposedly $3.5 million in a fund. We could sell the city yard, that's $8 to $10 million. Right there, that's $13.5 million. The rest, maybe we do need to issue municipal debt, but what you're implying is that we would need to issue municipal debt and put the city at risk of paying $17.5 million in a lump sum, which scares the residents. And what I'd like to see is a much more impartial analysis on the frequently asked questions, because that is all we can rely on, because you guys sit up here and you have no opinion on it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Very good. Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have one more item. Item 8A.
Not on the agenda that you'd like to talk about. Now's your chance. If you're here for something other than something that's not on the agenda, why don't you wait until your item comes up, and then you'll have an opportunity to speak. If you speak now about an item that's on the agenda, you won't have a second chance to speak when we bring it up again. Okay?
Barbara Ellman, Loma Drive. I know that the city manager is going to be speaking about the oil situation, but it says it's going to be an oral presentation that's not going to be written. So in the future, I'm hoping that we'll know ahead of time what he's going to be bringing up. I do want to bring to your attention, I was here in December and I had asked some questions. One of them was that when you make any changes to anything that has to do with oil, if there's some way that we'll know that those changes have been done in a different print, a different font, something, so we can keep up with the changes, especially as new people become interested. They're not going to know what was old information and what's new information. And the second thing I wanted to bring up was that I didn't see a change. I had made a comment in the FAQ about what royalties would the city of Hermosa Beach and the Hermosa Beach City School District receive from the oil drilling project. And again, there's still no mention of Tidelands money in here. And I think that that's an extraordinarily important part of this whole thing of where is the money going to be coming from and where can we do with the money. And again, that's just not in the FAQ right now. And the last thing I want to bring up is that this is the planning application. And I printed it out so that people who are watching will understand that if you do print something from home, you have to have a lot of ink and a lot of paper. And it's not easy to read. And if someone gives you the excuse, well, you can find it in the application. I just don't want you to rely on the fact that we have to read through this, and we have to read a lot of technical information. You have to hire an attorney to understand what a lot of this is, which apparently I'm going to have to do. So I just don't want you to take it lightly when you say, oh, well, it's on the website. It's not just on the website. You have to hunt for it. You have to have the time for it. So that's what I'd like. I'm hoping that the city manager will bring up some of this when he speaks this evening. Thank you.
Very large projects, a sort of an Excel document tracking key document changes and developments. Could we look into some sort of record of this was changed on this date, and that file is always available, and then that way we're being really judicious about informing folks, at least tracking the changes we're making. I'm not sure if this was necessarily what Ms. Ellman was speaking to, but I know recently we added some items to the FAQs.
Right.
But there's no way for anybody to really know that we added items. We could, especially if they're small, we wouldn't announce them. We wouldn't really, we're just doing maintenance. But I think at a minimum, maybe we can just be tracking document changes, document adds, document edits. Obviously, having things on the website is sort of the minimum requirement, I think,
Right.
as we find a way to regularly let people stay up to speed. I think that kind of thing would be good. I can find an example if I'm not being clear.
No, I'm clear. We have a website meeting tomorrow, so we can start that process for the website at least, as well as other documents.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Hi. Chris Prenter. I live on Loma Drive. I see EMB's propaganda machine has been spreading their lies in the local paper. This ad that discusses the recovery process for the proposed oil drilling states. Did you know that this approach will develop and protect resources unique to Hermosa Beach while providing substantial financial benefit to the community? Now, since the oil that EMB is so hot to acquire exists under the ocean and not under the city, the community does not stand to benefit financially because those proceeds go to the Tidelands Trust, not to the city. The oil is out there under the ocean, and contrary to what EMB is stating, the resources of this city are not oil. The resources of this city are the beautiful beach and clean ocean, our parks, our valuable real estate, the thriving local businesses, tourism, and the health and safety of the people who live here. And EMB's proposed oil drilling is a serious threat to all of Hermosa Beach's resources. Layton has a poor environmental track record. He bankrupted a previous venture after an oil spill in Louisiana and left the cleanup to the state and the feds. You can't possibly trust EMB. They're going to promise everything and anything to win this. The city will not benefit from oil drilling. In fact, the last time I checked, oil drilling in Hermosa Beach was banned. So I'm not going to stand by and watch Hermosa Beach's resources be threatened. My friends and neighbors are going to fight this drilling, and we are going to win again, just like we did before. And Steve Layton can go back to Bakersfield. And that's all I have to say.
7A, oil project status, and you have an oral report from City Manager Bakaly.
Tom, the goal of this is to be as brief and informative as possible.
Okay. I kind of wish those little kids were still here that did the recycling one, but so I'll make it brief. You've given us direction that you'd like us to come back and give monthly updates on oil and where we are on oil, really from a logistical basis. And so this is our first one tonight. We started that with our joint meeting with the school district. And so what we'd like to do tonight is just walk you through a couple of things we have going on, give you an update on where we are with the environmental impact report, and then answer any questions that you might have. So it's just really a logistical update. We're not getting into any substantive issues or anything like that as it relates to oil. It's just talking about the studies that are going on and where we are with those. So maybe I'll just step over real quick and
Sure.
put this so that people can see it. Maybe I'll just speak from here. Is that okay? Is it? So this is a chart that we've used to really try to kind of pinpoint all the things that are going on with oil. I think there's a lot of focus in the middle there. You'll see the what's actually a green circle, the draft EIR. That's what everybody's been focused on. That'll be the action that you all will be asked to take after a long process. We've just gone out for a request for proposal for that. We're hoping to have the EIR completed in 2013, maybe more like January. At that point, there'll be a public scoping process, as you can see with the blue line there, that kicks that off. The public will be involved in looking at that. Then that comes to you, and you determine whether or not that meets the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. That will be the action that you and the Planning Commission take. There's a lot of focus on the EIR. What does it say? What does it do? We have an application right now that we're determining whether or not that's complete and whether we can move forward with the EIR. So high focus on that. We think there's some other things that are equally as important. There were questions tonight regarding the economic effects. I think in the next couple of days, you're going to see some figures from the oil company. Frankly, we want to do our own study. We're recommending, and you all tonight, you didn't talk about it specifically, but in your action on the mid-year budget, you did approve funds for us to go forward with our own economic study. And so that's something that the city's going to be doing, that we're going to be paying for. The oil company will not be paying for that piece. They are paying for the EIR work. The other thing that we think is real important is the health. And so we're going to be also doing a health impact assessment. And that's something that the oil company is going to pay for, but that gets to specific questions regarding any health impacts. So between those three sort of tracks that you have going in the middle there, you've got, what technically is happening with the project, with the EIR, what are the economic effects, what are the health effects. So when we talk about sort of sustainability and Hermosa's commitment to sustainability, we're missing one sort of key component there, which is the community. And so that's what you see at the beginning there, and also in the budget were some funds to have a community dialogue about what's important to Hermosa, what are the values, what's Hermosa all about, why are we here? As someone that just moved here, my guess is there are some real similar reasons as to why we're here. And so through the community dialogue, we're going to define what those are. We're going to build on some of the work you just did in December and January, and we're going to determine what's important to the community. That'll start pretty quick, and that will be, I think, a good sort of fence post for people to gauge some major decisions on. There'll be decisions about development. There'll be decisions about retail mix in town, and of course there'll be the oil decision. So that the thinking is, yeah, you're going to have all that stuff going on in the middle with the EIR, with, are the numbers right? Where can the money be spent? To answer the woman's question, we don't know right now exactly where the money can be spent. The oil company is going to have some opinions about that in their study. We're going to do our own study. So all that's going to be happening on the details. But what we think what's equally as important is for the community to define what's important to it, and then the voters have the tools to decide whether or not oil fits. Because at the end of the day, it'll be the decision of the voter. And so that's what we're working on. We think that if the only opportunity for public input is public scoping on a very detailed environmental impact report, that we've probably missed the opportunity for community dialogue and input. Where we think people are going to engage is defining what's important to them, having that discussion about Hermosa and why we want to be here, and then using that as a decision-making tool to see if oil fits or what development should look like, that sort of thing. So that's where we are right now. That's our schedule.
You want to meander back over, and gentlemen, did you have any questions specifically for Tom?
I'll wait till you're sitting. Thank you for that. Just two things. One, and one of the residents spoke to it earlier about an oral report, and you have a written document, which is this document
Right.
here. So I might suggest that anything that you have in writing that you want to present, that it be part of the agenda from the standpoint that it be available in advance of the meeting. And I think moving forward, anything that you're presenting should be in written form. That's just my suggestion. And secondly, you mentioned some potential timelines. We don't know specifically dates or, real specific things, but if you have some idea as to when these things might be happening, is kind of build them in as almost like a living document, just
Right.
kind of fill in the dates as we move through the process. I think that would also be helpful.
I agree.
As part of what we're trying to do as far as providing information to the community. So that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we are going to be adding dates to this chart, and we'll make sure we get this, on the website. This has been kind of a work in progress.
Am I correct? First of all, I think we've needed this. This is a huge step forward to simplify what we're all kind of talking about that we want to try to do as an organization, and it's put in a form that's easy to understand. Obviously, people want to understand the detail, but at least it gives a simple summary of what we're working on. Will you just, let me say it this way, am I correct in saying that, I guess, as if I look at this and sort of as time progresses, we'll be moving left to right. So at the moment, are we somewhere sort of on that far left green box? Is that we're in there, or just to the left of it? Is that where we are in the sort of flow of this whole document?
We did a request for qualifications for a facilitator to help us with the community dialogue process, because until tonight, you all hadn't appropriated any money for that. And so we have some consultants that we're looking at going forward with. From tonight, we're going to be selecting those consultants to help us with this broader community dialogue to help the community define what's important to us. We have not begun the public scoping process for the EIR. We are currently out selecting consultants for that, so I see that probably happening, in the May-June range, probably after a broader dialogue about what's important to Hermosa. So all these things will be interrelated, but and then the assessment of economic effects, we're going to be going out and selecting a consultant in the next several months. So it's a long way of saying, yeah, we're on the left-hand side and getting started, but it's all going to happen simultaneously with some check-ins in the middle. I think that's where that middle box is as we get into the process, we're going to check back in and see, okay, how does this all match back to what we're hearing is important to the community?
Right. One last comment. So that's what I like about this report, is it's a simple view of what's to come. What I actually like about what it means is that for those who aren't familiar with the EIR process, it's very confusing, and it's what we can do as an organization is very precise and limited from a sort of engaged resident perspective. And I think that your team is putting together a plan to open that up for more discussion and more valuable discussion, and maybe more things that we can act on or respond to. I think would be very valuable and will help take the pressure off of or frustration out of what will no doubt come in the EIR process. And so for me, thinking about what this will look like at the end of this chart, I think that's the most exciting thing that you're sharing with me here, is that people will have comments that they'll expect us to deal with in the EIR that we won't be able to deal with in the EIR. And I appreciate that you're creating a forum for us to deal with those comments, because I think that's more sensitive to what the community rightly want from us. So,
Right. And for the community to deal with those as well.
yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Can I make one comment to the mayor? Due to the importance of this, this whole oil thing,
What did you think we should have moved, Howard, is my question to you.
yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, maybe something between the public hearing and the municipal matter. I'm just thinking,
Or-
we had a lot of people here, maybe earlier, that they waited around now at this hour, and if, it might have been more helpful for them if we moved this up earlier in the meeting, so they don't have to wait for.
I
this
also try to
information.
get the meetings done quickly, and many
Just-
times we get
Just a suggestion to the mayor.
caught up in a number of things that might be dealt with more efficiently elsewhere. Okay, thank you, Tom. We don't have to, do we have to? We do? Okay. Well, hang on, I know there's a couple of you here that are probably interested in oil. Are you interested in speaking to us about it? Don't have to. Going once. Okay. Do you want to? If you want to.